This is a short question and sweet question, but it's going to be a longer answer. The subject, your Wyoming days, as if I have not ranted enough about this. Bob writes, I'd like a video response to the following. Why did you move to Wyoming? How long were you there? How old were you when you lived there? What did you like least about Wyoming? What did you like most about living in Wyoming? Would you ever consider moving back under any circumstances? Share an interesting anecdote or stories you think your audience would find amusing and or interesting. Thanks for the quote. Thanks, and give me a quote for a video and I'll forward the money. You may identify me as Bob from Arkansas. Bob from Arkansas writes. Okay, so I had to sit down. I said, well, how many stories do you want? And so he paid. So we'll give you a couple stories here. Some of which I've probably told before. I know I have. Why did you move to Wyoming? Because I got paid. It was 2011, so we were kind of in the throes of the Great Recession. Banks were kind of getting their act together. I was in a purely go fuck yourself state with the banking industry. And if I had worked at banks, it was on a consulting contract basis only. I answered to no one, and it was a fuck you, pay me deal. And so I don't know how the hell I had a recruiter. Now I remember there's a recruiter based in Montana. Somehow he got my name. Maybe it was the book I wrote. I don't know. And he's like, hey, I got a job for you out in Wyoming. And I was no fan of Minnesota either. And there were no state income taxes in Wyoming. There was mountains. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this state. Let's go to Wyoming. What could be worse than the cold, snowy, high-tax Minnesota? Well, Wyoming, surprisingly. So I went out there, and I was hired as a assistant VP or reserve VP. It wasn't an actual vice president, because you'll find out in banking that everyone is an assistant reserve or vice president. Then there's the actual, then there's vice presidents. Then there's actual vice presidents. And then, so I was like, more effectively, I can't even say I was a banker, because they said, well, we don't want you to make any loans yet. I'm like, okay. So I ended up just being a credit analyst, then compliance officer, then an economist, like this hodgepodge, because they weren't the worst. But they certainly were small bank management material, which means incompetent dopey fucks. And if any of you are watching it, you guys were truly, and it was, that was the other, I remember this now. I knew enough to look them up on the, not the FCC, not the OCC, what the hell, FDIC, and look at their ratios. And they were the second worst performing bank in all of Wyoming. And, may not be a lot of banks in Wyoming, but they were the second worst. And it just, and in the past, to prove it, one of the branch offices I recommended they closed down. They finally did. It just same old banking story. Small dipshit cowboys who don't know jack, and one guy had a CPA and couldn't manage for shit. Anyways, that's why I went out there. They paid me. How long was I there? I was there for like a year and a week and a half or 2 weeks. Because I remember the day I had my year in and they couldn't rescind my bonus that I signed. I made sure to contact the HR lady. I said, how long have I been? Has it been a year? Yeah, and I even waited an extra day. And then the day after I gave my resignation. And yeah, we were going to go, hey, Dave, shut the fuck up. I don't care. And then I went on my motorcycle ride. That hopped on my motorcycle. I think I was in, where did I stay? Rifle? What town did I stay in? I took my crotch rocket all the way down to Phoenix, visited the talented Mr. Lee. But I was there a year, about 2 weeks, because I came back. I spent some time in Phoenix and I came back because they're going to pay me my 2 weeks salary. I was like, how old were you when you lived there? I was 36 or 37. What did you like least about Wyoming? Hands down, the people. It's a beautiful state otherwise, but the people are not in competition for, not challenging or positioning for. They are easily, by a wide margin, the dumbest people I've ever ran into. I'm sure maybe if I spent more time in West Virginia, that might change. I'm sure if I went to Turkestan or something, I might have a different opinion. But I have never ran into such a universally slow and stupid culture than the people of Wyoming. Take all the worst stereotypes that people on the East and West Coast have of flyover country in Hicks and trailer park trash, and that is Wyoming. There's a thing called Evansville. It's an entire town of trailer parks, and I can't even begin to describe how slow and dumb the people. So there was the Wyoming 3. You never get it right on the first time. You want to talk about how a gross state product could be tripled overnight. People are so dumb and slow in Wyoming. They can never do it right the first time. You have to always go back 2 more times to get it finally done right the third time. And this could be anything. Your Subway sandwich getting made right. Having the roads paved. Having a construction site. Having an oil rig put up. Getting married after your 3rd kid. I mean, I can't even just Matt, here's a better way to put it. Imagine dealing with people who are mentally retarded. That is the state of Wyoming. Yeah, of course there's smart people there. But I think it was Natrona County High School. I think it was like half the girls were pregnant. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. And meth and booze is a horrible plague out. I mean, it is just, the epitome of stupid people. Okay? Don't go to Wyoming. You could go to Yellowstone. You could go to Jackson. You could go to Grand Teton National Park. You're going to see tourists. You want to see Wyoming, pull into Gillette, pull into Rollins, pull into Casper, pull into Rock Springs. And even Rock Springs, you're going to get too much tourist traffic for fishing. It is, and I kind of wonder what the IQ is out there. But, just the people take a otherwise beautiful state and they ruin it because you just can't get shit done. I mean, I remember motorcycle mechanics. It was easier for me to go online and fix a damn thing myself than have the local mechanic down there fix it because he was on drugs and drunk all the time. Took my crotch rocker for a ride. All of a sudden there's like a cracked fairing. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It's the people. What I like most about living in Wyoming, the mountains. I love the mountains. I lived in Casper for a while, then I lived in a town called Buffalo. And Buffalo is right up against the Bighorn Mountains. And trailheads, so some of those beautiful hiking was 10 minutes away. 5 in one case. There was a trailhead in the foothills. You didn't even have to get up into the mountains. But that's what I loved about Wyoming the most. And then you could motorcycle ride and hike, and Ten Sleep Canyon is beautiful. But that's why I like. There were other good things, like another great thing about Wyoming. You just carry your gun wherever the fuck you want. In that one regard, the people are actually kind of mature. Like, yeah, you can carry a gun. You're an adult, You can go shooting anywhere. You don't need a gun range. You just go out to the federal land and start blasting away. Lots of great motorcycle riding, but really it was the mountains and towns like Sheridan, Cody, Buffalo. There's not that many towns, though, that are nestled right into the mountain. Jackson's nice, but very expensive, very liberal. Then you're on these prairie towns, or the towns that are in the basin, and there's nothing out there except maybe literally a crosswalk, a intersection, a stoplight, a gas station, and then there's nothing. But yeah, I would say the mountains. Would you ever consider moving back under any circumstances? Yeah, the rest of the world's on fire and there's nowhere else to go. If I wanted to be a hermit and just hike the mountains, I'd be a mountain. Like if I wanted nothing to do with society, if I totally wanted to check out, like I wanted to go ghost and go off grid, I would go to Wyoming. But it's cold, it's windy during winter. You'd have to interact. Yeah, you're talking, would I ever go live in California, almost is what I'm considering. At least California has nice weather. No, there's very, if I just wanted to check out, like Aaron Clary retired and never see him again, I might be somewhere in Wyoming. But there's other places I'd go. I'd go to British Columbia before I go to Wyoming. Sycamus or Revelstoke or something like that. Salmon Arm. Share any interesting anecdote or story you think the audience would find amusing or interesting. All right, well, I wrote a couple down. I know I've told some of these before, but maybe not. There was the dance story where I was bored out of my mind, and so I decided I'd offer some dance classes. And the main bar in town was very happy to have me teach dance classes. It was tourist season, so I came in and every, I don't know, Tuesday or Thursday, I taught a dance class. So first night, we put flyers around. That's old school. It's flyers. And and then here's all these nice, this was one charming thing that was nice, is all the ladies, predominantly old ladies, came out and they had their best Sunday and they were all dressed up and they were ready to get the hootenanny, get a hoedown going on. And it was all gals. And I think there were 2 or 3 other guys in addition to me, but there were like 10 or 12 gals. And I'm looking, and I had a veteran dance instructor, I know how to pay attention. I'm looking at their left hands. I'm like, how many of these gals got rings on their fingers? All of them. And so we start dance class, and now I got to rotate. We got 3 guys, 4 with me included, and we got to satisfy 10 or 11 gals. And every gal I'm asking, I'm like, are you married? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, where's your husband? Why isn't he here? Oh, he is. And then, sure enough, they point them, and all the husbands had to chaperone their wives. They wouldn't take place in the dance class. They wouldn't participate, but they were afraid that, here in this town of 3,000 people, all the people they knew, one of them was going to run off with their wives. Or here I am, Mr. Dance Instructor, 36-year-old guy, and I'm going to run off to Puerto Rico with 68-year-old Gertrude. And I'm dancing. These guys had the meanest looks on their faces. It's like I'm going to steal their broads. And that's the thing about Wyoming men, is they're only physically tough or liquid tough, but they are the most insecure, possessive, controlling men I've ever seen. And they're really tough until you remind them that Colt made men equal. And all you have to do is stand up to them once, and they buckle down real quick. You're just like, oh, that's funny, because I didn't know you could run faster than 2,000 feet per second. So that's how fast the bullet's going to be coming towards your fucking ass. Anyway, so the women are like cattle in Wyoming. The men really, you want to talk about some latent sexism that might actually have some credibility to it. Not, oh my God, he didn't do what I want, he's sexist. I mean, like, where men view women as property, it's Wyoming. There was the dipshit that asked me for a gas loan. Guy comes into my office, baby boomer piece of shit fuck. You got a bad news. And when he said he wanted a gas loan, I'm thinking like he's a commercial guy and he needed a loan to get gas for his tanker or for the oil industry or something like that. No, he wanted I think it was a $50 or $60 loan for gas so he could drive down to Denver to see his grandson that had a brain tumor that was recently born. And I'm looking at the guy, I'm like, yeah, the pawn shop is right down the street, or the payday lender is right down the street. And remember, there are stupid fucking people. Now, a lot of that could have been that we were in one of the, if not the second worst bank of all Wyoming, and that we would get the dredges of society. There were the people that were passing on fake checks. This is a great one. This is a great, again, the who dang diggly dangly diggly doos of Wyoming. These people were perpetually overdrawn on their checking account. And then one day they come in with a check for $6,000 in change. They've never seen this much money in their lives. And a 3-year-old could have, with crayon, done a better job of creating a fake check like this was. It was inkjet printed, so it would be very dark on the top, and then the ink would start to dry out, then the ink would re-inject, and there'd be a darker line, just like this gradiated fucking check. It didn't have a routing number. And I wanted to go, I'm like, okay, got these. Because I had to deal with these pieces of fucking shit. And that's all they were. They were pieces of fucking shit. I'm like, awesome, we got them now. This is a fucking felony. Passing on a $6,000 fake check. So I'm about to call the cops. My boss comes, no, don't do that. I'm like, are you joking me? He's like, no, we need them. I'm like, how do we need these people? They're like, well, do you know how much they generate in overdraft fees for us? That was their strategy. Forget all the Oreo real estate that they own that was just sitting there decaying. That was their fucking strategy. was to make bank off of degenerates in the dredges of society. Oh, another one. I remember there was this old spinster lady of a banker. You could just tell, pissed off baby boomer, and working. They wanted me to put together a new credit analysis software model. So I programmed this very thorough and complete model. So not to bore you with details of lending, but usually when you make a loan, there's collateral pledged, so that if the borrower does not pay the money, the bank can go and repossess the collateral, just like your house is collateral for your mortgage. But not all the time is it one piece of collateral. If you're dealing with business, you can pledge your vehicles, your machinery, your property, plant, and equipment, that kind of thing. And so sometimes you have 3 or 4 pieces of collateral. Well, the sign of a bad loan is when you have one loan and 10 or more pieces of collateral because the person doesn't own anything of value. And the problem, especially with this bank, is they had run so afoul of the federal regulators that the feds were up their ass requiring updates, and then we had to what's called perfect your collateral, which you should be doing anyway. And perfect the collateral means that you make sure it's there, you make sure the person owns it, you go on at the Secretary of State, you look up UCC numbers. In other words, verifying the person owns it and there's no loans currently against it in the first place. Like, do you own that car? Are there any other loans against it? Okay, so now you can pledge that car as collateral. And what would end up happening is we get some rinky-dink $100,000 loan, and there'd be 10 or 12 pieces of collateral. And what management didn't understand is that if the banks and the credit bankers and the credit analysts have to go and verify the collateral, 10 pieces of collateral, you're spending so much time, energy, and resources that no matter what fees or interest rate you're charging them on that $100,000 loan, let's say $100,000 you charge 5%. Okay, 5% interest rate. Well, that's $5,000 a year. But if there's 10 pieces of collateral, some of which is located in fucking North Dakota, you're driving. Guys wasting 3 days on the road. Hotel expenses, just to verify if there's a trailer out there and it's worth $8,000. That's what. So I came up with, I think it was you could have 15 pieces of collateral. And I'm like, and if you have more, so I'm going through, I'm training all the bankers, and none of them listen. Going, we don't do that Excel thing. Just a bunch of baby boomer fucks. And I said, this and that and this. And I said, we have for 15 pieces of collateral. And then the lady raises her hand. I'm like, fuck you, lady. If you have more than 15, what if we have more? I'm like, then you should be dragged out in the street and shot. She got pissed. I went right to my boss. I got to talk to you now. I don't understand it. It's not professional. And I was already on my way out. I was like, yeah, fuck you. It was the time I was driving, and every job ever, the dumb can only keep up with the smart about 20% of the time. And so I had put in my 2 hours of work. There was nothing left to do. And again, the who dang diggly doos of Wyoming. This is 2012. They had attachment capability. And we spent Lord knows how many thousands of dollars because our email system wouldn't allow for attachments above a certain amount. So we're actually transferring physical files. Like, are you going down that office? Here, you just take the stack of files and drive it. Because they didn't want to drop extra money on bandwidth. And so, one time I had to head towards Minnesota. I forgot what town I was going to. And they're like, here, take these files to this office. So I got there, and I'm thinking, my house is only another, 8 hours away. And I just kept going because it's the weekend. They're like, are you coming back? I'm like, no, I'm in Chamberlain, South Dakota. What are you doing there? I'm like, going back to Minneapolis for the weekend. I'm like, you got something for me to do? Just, standard dipshit bankers. And then I think probably another funny story. So Buffalo, Wyoming, you can look it up. I think it's maybe 3,500 people. It's not a big town at all. and I was asked to appraise a house. You do a banker's estimate where you go, you look at the house, you look at comparable sales at the MLS. Okay, square foot, prorated, and it's when there's a loan, it's not terribly risky. So you don't need a full appraisal done. It saves money. And so I looked at it. I had my little spreadsheet. I plugged in the numbers. I'm like, okay, the house is worth between $100,000 and $120,000. I remember it. It's this piece of shit trailer. The trailer had no value. It was just the land it was on. And sure enough, get called in the office. And here's my boss. He was like, you know, I disagree with this valuation. And I knew enough to say, well, what would you like it to be? What do you want? What? Let's just cross out the one we'll put it to. You know, like how you change a C to a B on your report card. What do you want it to be? Well, he says, oh, now I understand. Now you did the math right. I'm like, yeah, but you have incorrect. You don't have enough comparables. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what do you mean comparables? Well, you only have like 3. I'm like, it's because this is such a small town. There's only 3 comparables in the past 6 months. You know, like there's not enough volume in this town to get more than that of a similar building type. And he's like, well, I know, but you chose them from the bad neighborhoods. I'm like, bad neighborhoods in a town. This town has 3 stoplights. Bad neighborhoods? Neighborhoods, period? There's a good neighborhood? He's like, you should, now keep in mind, I had been in this town. It didn't take long to figure this town out. I'd been in this town by about like 2 months. He's like, you should drive around town and get to go know the neighborhoods. I'm like, by God, guess what I'm going to do? So here I am. I put my helmet on, got my black suit on, tie. I'm just driving around for 2 hours. Catching in a nice motorcycle ride. I'm like, oh, here's a trailer park here. Here's a trailer park there. There's a bar there. There's a gas station. Oh, this must be the fucking Winnetka of Wyoming. Did you get a good or better feel for the town? Yep, I sure did. You're right. And then I just bullshitted some figures on it just to make them like, yep, got over 200. There you go. There, yep. That piece of property, you're right. It's in the good neighborhood of Buffalo. So that's Wyoming. I mean, there was the time I had pulled gun on one guy who was high on meth, another guy was banging on my apartment door at 3 a.m. There was racing motorcycles on Highway 16 through at night, and the idiot guy, who was a great guy, I loved him, but he was an idiot. He thought he was going to beat me on his Harley when I had a crotch rocket. He's taking turns. You can see the sparks flying up from the foot pegs. I'm like, dude. What? I mean, it just, you know, an American in Paris, except it's a smart guy in the world of retards. I mean, it just, you know, and I think I knew I should move when I was so bored. I found myself hunting rattlesnakes, and I'm walking out in the prairie, and I have a can of diesel because you got to pour it into the burrow to smoke out and I had a hatchet and a stick with a Y after it, and I'm just walking around, I'm looking, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't working. This is it's become this where I'm walking around in the middle of the prairie with a can of diesel and a hatchet. I'm looking to kill snakes because that's how bored I am with the people out here. So that's it. That's Wyoming. Hope you enjoyed the show. Questions and answers over at assholeconsulting.com. We'll see you all later. Toodles. Howdy, lieutenants and economists. The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com. Yeah, I am going to charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!